This conference is being recorded. Only the main conference is recorded.
Welcome and good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with Environmental Support Division of Eagle, and I'll be assisting by moderating this public hearing tonight. And this is a public hearing for the Bear Lake Aeration Project, Laketon Township and North Muskegon in Muskegon County. And the permittee is Kim Arter. But before we get into introducing our other Eagle staff, I'm going to go through some logistics and an agenda for tonight. Go back one. We're doing an introduction right now as we're going through. But one important thing you should know, this public hearing is kind of broken up into two separate parts. The first part is an informational session. So the applicant is going to have an opportunity to present information on the project, which will last no more than about 10 minutes. And then we will have a question and answer session, which will go to around 6:30. And we'll stick pretty close to that 6:30 time frame so that you can all make your comments without going too late. And then the second part of the public hearing tonight, that's the part where you will make your official comment that's for the record on this project. And we'll explain how you can go about doing that here in more detail. But we'll also talk about other ways to submit an official comment if you didn't want to make a comment tonight. I will talk about where to find other information and then who to contact for further questions. All right, for those of you who haven't used the Zoom platform before, I just want to go through a couple things. Just so you know, all lines are muted during the hearing. So you can hear us, but we can't hear you. You're going to submit your questions during that question and answer session, which is again going to be after that presentation. In the Zoom toolbar, which you'll find at the bottom of the screen, you can click on that question toolbar and type a question in. You will be able to raise your hand later on to ask a question as well. We'll go through that a little bit later too. Also, we're recording this hearing so that you'll receive a link in a few days to the recording, and it will also be on our YouTube channel. All right, so with that, I'd like to invite Nancy and Audrey to introduce themselves. They are the Eagle staff participating in this hearing tonight.
Hi, I'm Nancy Concannon, and I am the hearings officer for this evening.
Hey everyone, I'm Audrey Kirk, and I'm the district supervisor for the Grand Rapids office, which covers 9 counties in West Michigan.
All right, thank you, Audrey and Nancy. I should mention that Matt Tomlinson with our Environmental Support Division is also on. He's going to be helping out in the background, so you may hear Matt's voice. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with that public information session so that you have some background information on the project. And so we're going to invite Mr. John Tucci, who should be in the audience, and we're going to unmute Mr. Tucci and allow him to present on the project today.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yeah, thank you for joining us for the public hearing. Yeah, I have your slides here, so if you just want to tell me when you'd like them advanced, and then also just for the sake of time, if you could keep it to 10 minutes or less, it would be appreciated.
Understood.
All right,
so go ahead, first slide. Thank you for the opportunity. We're here to review the Bear Lake Aeration Project and want to get right to the issue of why aeration for Bear Lake. So next slide, please. So the determination for why aeration for Bear Lake was done by Restorative Lake Sciences, led by Jennifer Jamalowitz-Jones, PhD, and one of only 2 certified lake professionals in the state of Michigan, which is a designation developed by the North American Lake Management Society, there's probably less than 100 in the country, CLP. So another important thing to note about Restorative Lake Sciences is that they are the largest lake management sciences firm in Michigan. They manage well over 100 lakes. And it should be noted that only about 10% of those lakes are using aeration as a management tool. So this is not something that Restorative Lake Sciences recommends ad hoc. They do a very careful job of assessing lakes and determining the right strategy for each lake. And according to Dr. Jones, Bear Lake is the right strategy. Aeration is the right strategy for Bear Lake to reduce toxin-producing blue-green algae. And that has not responded well to past copper sulfate treatments. This aeration has been used extensively on reservoirs and lakes across the country for cyanobacteria reduction. There's some peer review references on the next slide. And specifically, Bear Lake has shown low dissolved oxygen throughout the water column periodically. And aeration is obviously the best way to homogenize dissolved oxygen to healthy levels, reducing nutrients at the bottom of the lake and also increasing mixing of the water column, which reduces cyanobacteria growth, as confirmed in multiple peer-reviewed studies. So the goal with this project is to not replace, but to supplement the extensive watershed improvements that have been implemented and continue to be worked on by the Bear Lake Board. And really the finding here is by Restorative Lake Sciences is that an and both strategy is necessary for Bear Lake, and that aeration is the best in-lake strategy for the lake. So next slide, please. And of course, Dr. Jones is available on this meeting tonight. I was asked to do this presentation, so there was just one presenter, but Dr. Jones and representatives of the board are available for Q&A, I believe, later. So this second slide is just a quick review. We're not going to go through these, but aeration doesn't come out of the blue. It comes out of decades of research and experiences around the country with multiple scientists using it to make improvements in lakes. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a perfect solution for complete lake restoration, but it has been proven extensively to increase dissolved oxygen through the water column, and the particular type we're using in the sediments, reduce cyanobacteria and improve water quality in the lakes that are using it. Next slide, please. The Bear Lake Improvement Board also did an extensive amount of due diligence for this project. So an engineering feasibility study was commissioned and completed in July of 2017. That complete study was presented to the public with opportunities for public comment at a required public hearing in 2017. And more than 20 board meetings have been advertised and conducted since this project was first identified, where aeration was discussed on the agenda and available for public comment. The project was conducted under formal RFP by the board, and we were vetted along with other vendors, and the public notice public meeting was noticed to all riparians to review the need for the project and the design in October of 2019. And finally, the board has conducted site visits and multiple reference calls to vet us as the selected vendor for aeration for Bear Lake. Next slide, please. And so, and if you'll click the mouse, what qualifies us? Quite simply, if you'll just click the mouse and it'll bring up a number of lakes. Quite simply, by a factor of 10, we have done more lake and reservoir aeration projects than any other company in the country. We've got successes in states ranging from, of course, Michigan to Oregon to Ohio to North Carolina and to Massachusetts and Connecticut and Vermont. So we've been all around the country. We started in Michigan. And we've got multiple successful projects in Michigan. Next slide, please. Mouse click. And we've also been commissioned by drinking water management, municipalities and water companies to implement this same technology in drinking water reservoirs to improve the water quality and reduce algae growth in the water in the reservoir, so that it reduces the cost and improves the taste and quality and safety of the water delivered to residents once it goes through the treatment plant. So we're actually used as a cost saving and quality improvement strategy by water supply authorities around the country to do a better job of providing better water to their customers at a lower price. Next slide. So here is a look at the design for Bear Lake. This has been noticed, and I think people have this, 2 compressor stations running, a total of, I believe, 54 diffusers throughout the main basin of the lake. And while this looks awful crowded on this slide, these diffusers are 12 inches by 12 inches and create a small circle of moving water out in the lake. So unless it's a very, very calm day, it's actually quite hard to notice that anything is actually different in the lake with these systems. Next slide, please. This is just a look at a cross-sectional view of how the system works. It's got a shore-based compressor that is specifically designed for sound reduction. These are very quiet systems to where from 10 to 15 feet away, the noise level is about that of a household dishwasher. And then that air goes to a specially designed air manifold at the lakefront that then distributes the air to each of the diffusers, each diffuser having a home run or hose that brings it back to the manifold. And each diffuser sits at the bottom of the lake in those designated areas. We've implemented these systems on multiple all sports lakes with very minimal problems with respect to damage to any of the equipment, no liability claims of any residents on any of our lakes that have either had damaged property or injured people or anything like that since we've been operating this technology since 2007. Next slide, please. This is a look at what the equipment looks like. Obviously, the compressor that goes in an enclosure like the one you see on the right-hand side of the screen. These are custom designed small buildings or mechanical equipment enclosures, again, specifically designed to take care of the equipment and keep the compressor cool and happy while reducing noise to levels that really, again, are about the noise level of a dishwasher from 10 to 15 feet away. On the bottom, you can see the airline.
So you're at about 9 minutes right now, just as a heads up.
And good, thank you for the reminder. Next slide, please. So this is what it looks like in action on a Michigan lake. Next slide, please. And these are just 3 examples of lakes around the country that have had success with this technology, including Devil's Lake in Oregon. Next slide, please. Lake Pocatapog in Connecticut, where the newspaper talked about for the first time in 15 years, Lake Pocatapog being clear as a bell, and a lot of social media support for the project. Next slide, please. And then Grand Lake St. Mary's, where you can see a picture of what this technology can do for a treated area. This is a very large lake, one of the most notorious blue-green algae lakes in the country. Our treatment area, we did a little test area, about 10 acres, and you can see the difference between the water in the untreated area and the Everblue treated area. So we're pleased to have this opportunity. Happy to answer questions. We think this will be a good project for the lake and has been very well researched by the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you for providing that information. All right, so now we're going to move into the question and answer section of tonight's hearing. And again, just to mention again, so this session right now is going to be for questions that are for our panelists here tonight. If you want to make a statement, the next portion of tonight's hearing will be the portion where you can make your official statement for the record. You can feel free to type in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen a question if you have a question. And then what will happen is I'll read the question off and then the panelists can answer it. Or you also have the option of clicking the hand icon at the bottom of your screen. So that what that will do is raise your hand in the Zoom platform, and then we'll call on you, we'll unmute you, and then you have a chance to ask your question. And then for those of you who are on the phone and who are not at your computers, you can type #2. And what that will do, it'll raise your hand in Zoom, and then we can call on you and you'll be able to unmute yourself. So those are kind of the different ways to ask a question. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I've got some questions rolling in here. Let me see here. So the question is, why are we installing? Why is the system being installed when there hasn't been any blue-green algae for the past 2 years? Can anybody, I guess, answer that as far as either Nancy or Audrey, or is that a better question for John?
I think that would be a better question for the agent, for the applicant or agent. Yep.
All right, so either John, you feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, I think that's a most appropriate question for the science team that is recommending aeration for the lake. But I believe in the slides we covered that, which is, yes, the lake is getting better, both from better management, I believe, for aquatic weeds, that, you know, a lighter hand with the management of that, which is helping to reduce the algae growth, as well as the watershed work. But the science work that has been done on the past, continued to be done each year since aeration was recommended, confirms that the lake is still in the high risk zone for blue-green algae blooms for most of the summer, for both phosphorus and for temperature. And that while you've had a better year the last year or so, that may, you know, that the underlying conditions that made aeration be recommended are still present in the lake and as bad as they were when you had the heavier blooms. So while there's improvement, more improvement is needed to get Bear Lake where it's in the condition that it really is optimal for recreational use. And interestingly enough, this spring, there was a large outbreak of filamentous algae on the lake that was causing a lot of pain for residents. And so it's not unusual for that to then lead right to blue-green algae. So we'll see what happens this year.
All right, thanks for that answer, John. I think the next one is probably going to be for you as well. And it's related to the success rate for the lake served. So what is your success rate for the lake served? How is it defined? And will this also mitigate weed issues?
Our success rate has been good. We have had out of the close to 30 plus systems that we've done, we have had a couple that have ended after 3 or 4 years. Those lakes were partial lake treatment systems where we were doing, where we thought we could impact the whole lake by doing a part of the lake or make one part of the lake better without treating the whole lake. So where we have now gone to these whole lake systems, we have been extremely successful without any that have either terminated early or been determined not to be producing the results that were designed. And so what we're shooting for Bear Lake is consistency in the dissolved oxygen readings, reduction in the phosphorus readings over time, and of course, consistent reductions in blue-green algae. With respect to reductions in aquatic weed growth, we have seen reductions in many of the lakes that we have worked on and implemented this technology. It's not, again, it is not we're not looking to eliminate all the weeds in the lake, but on my own lake, for example, we used to have to treat 45 to 60 acres of Eurasian water milfoil annually, and since implementing aeration, that treatment rate has gone down to between 5 and 12 acres a year. So that's pretty typical in terms of the impact on nuisance aquatic weeds. There is a reduction, but not a complete elimination. And some lakes will continue to spot treat for invasives.
Okay, yeah, thanks, John. I'm going to try to group some of these similar questions together. There are quite a few questions in here. There's a number of them related to, I guess, cost. So what is the expense for the aeration project? And will there be another assessment to fund the project? And then also related to that is how much will this cost each homeowner per year and for how long? So it's related to the financial aspect. The expense, will there be an assessment, and what's the cost to each homeowner?
Well, all I can say about that, I'm not the most appropriate person to answer those questions. That's the board has spent 3 years doing that work and presenting that information to the public in various formats and public hearings and written notices. So I don't have the answers to that information as part of what really should be my purview for this project, to be quite honest.
So it sounds like there's another avenue. If people have questions related to the financial aspect of this, they should contact the board, or is there a specific person?
Yes, Kim Arter is the chair of the board, and Daryl is the finance chairman, who also is a resident on the lake.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, I can comment. I can comment on one part of that, which I think is important and I think useful for folks to know. The community is only committed to a 2-year trial of this technology if we implement this year. So there is no obligation on the part of the board or the public to continue with the project if we're not meeting the results for the project. Now, quite frankly, we like to have 2 to 3 years to give the lake a chance to respond, but we actually did a special arrangement with Bear Lake and the board because of the timing of their next SAD. And so the decision on whether to continue this project beyond the 2 years of the current SAD will be subject to public and board process and decision-making. It's not up to us.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that answer and for all the good questions. I'm going to switch gears a little bit related to, there's a couple questions here related to pollution, or what is the risk of stirring up contaminated sediments? And then kind of similar to that, have you done this with lakes with oil on the bottom? And yeah, so I guess related to, it sounds like contaminated sediments, and then it sounds like the concern is related to stirring up bottom sediments.
Yes, that's a great question. The technology is under very heavy monitoring requirements through Eagle in Michigan. And all of our lakes have been monitored for total suspended solids and turbidity under the Eagle permitting requirements. Hundreds of thousands of pages of annual reports on lakes from all over the state with all different bottom types have been submitted to Eagle, and there has not been one instance where total suspended solids or the system was found to be distributing sediments from the bottom up into the water column. In fact, the technology is specifically designed not to do that. With respect to implementing this technology on lakes that have had oil issues in the sediment, we have not done that in Michigan. Bear Lake is unique in being a lake that has that issue or had that issue. But there again has been lots of information. Perhaps Eagle can comment on the degree to which that problem has been mitigated, and the EPA has determined that the levels in the sediment are, they're there, but they're no longer at critical levels requiring special cleanup. And in fact, the chair of the board, Kim Arter, has had contact with some of the oil and gas folks within Eagle, and they mentioned that they thought aerating the lake would be good for the lake and good for further remediating whatever might be left in the sediments with respect to hydrocarbons. And there is a lot of peer-reviewed research on the use of aeration to improve or mitigate hydrocarbons in sediments.
Okay, yep. Thanks. Thank you again for the questions, and to John for answering that. Maybe we can talk, there's some questions on timeline. With approval of the permit, how soon can we expect the system installation to begin? Maybe, I don't know if, maybe we could, Audrey or Nancy could talk about the permitting process along with that. And then when installation would begin.
I can go first if you want, or however, whatever order you want to go in.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, once a permit is issued, and the permit is a very clear process. So I think we'll know if a permit is issued. We would anticipate being ready to start the installation in about 6 to 8 weeks from having the permit. So the idea is to install in late summer into early fall, get the system running and tested this year so that we can be ready to have a full operational season starting April 1st of next year. And the term of the lease will not start until April 1st of next year.
Okay, so from our standpoint, we will have 10 days after this hearing closes for additional comments. So that's July 2nd. And then we also have 60 days from today's public hearing to make the actual decision. So I believe that date is August 31st. I will have to double check that, but it's 60 days from today. I'm sorry, I think that's the wrong date. I think I'm getting it wrong, but it's 60 days from today. We have to make a permit decision by.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Let's see here. There are a lot of questions. So I guess one question is related to the cons of, this is probably going to be our last question because we're running up against time. The cons related to aeration. There was one question specifically about pros, cons, that talked about the pros, but not about any cons. And I think there was another one in here related to what are the cons associated with aeration. Can anybody speak to that?
I certainly can. Aeration, there are cons to aeration. First, it's not a magic bullet. Aeration is designed to increase dissolved oxygen in the water, which it will do. By doing that, you typically do get some beneficial impacts on in the sediment chemistry, on nutrients and water quality. But there's a limit to what aeration can do. So it's not a magic bullet, and it won't solve all of Bear Lake's problems, certainly not overnight. And then with respect to what some would say are cons to aeration, it definitely will warm up the water. You know, it will equalize the temperature of the water to more so from top to bottom. And there are fisheries people that think that that is not the best thing for some species of fish. However, Bear Lake is already doesn't really stratify or set up big temperature changes anyway, so we think that risk is mitigated substantially for Bear Lake. The main I'd say con to aeration is that it is more expensive than chemical treatment of weeds or algae. However, it's by orders of magnitude less expensive than alum treatment or dredging. And so what aeration is trying to do is produce a restorative benefit to the lake for, yes, more cost than just killing weeds and algae with chemicals and sending them to the bottom, but for a lot less money than the other strategies, which are typically thought of as more restorative to the lake, where you're trying to make an improvement in the underlying ecosystem of the lake and not just kill weeds and algae.
Okay, now thank you to everyone who's sent in all the good questions. There are more questions in here than we can possibly answer tonight with the timeline we have. So we're going to move on to the next portion of tonight's hearing, but I would encourage you to, if you have a question, to enter it in the chat so that we have it. But with that, we're going to move on to the hearing portion of tonight's public hearing to give everybody an opportunity to make their statement. But in case you didn't want to make a statement tonight, there are other ways to make an official comment through our My Water system, which is at the website listed here with the submission number HP4-A8SR-86DBG, by email. And I'm gonna spell some of this out for the people on the phone. The email address is CUNCANNANN@michigan.gov, and that's Nancy's email address, or by mail to Nancy Kuncanen at State Office Building, 5th floor, 350 Auto Avenue Northwest, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 59503-2341. And the comment period after the public hearing, as Nancy had mentioned, will be open for 10 days, which is to July 2nd. You'll be able to make your comment until then. All right, so with that, I'd like to invite Nancy to read the opening statement for tonight's public hearing portion.
Okay. First, there's an official statement I must read to start the official hearing, and after which we will begin taking comments. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nancy Kuncanen, and I am the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, which we refer to as EGLE. I will be serving as the hearing officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HP4-A8SR-86DBG. And with me tonight is Audrey Kirk, the Grand Rapids District Supervisor. To describe how this is going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we are here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, we will read the closing statement. By way of background information, the Water Resources Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection, or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing these responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, Part 451, as amended. We are here tonight because Kim Arter, representing the Bear Lake Board, has proposed the following. Install a bottom diffused aeration system consisting of 2 shore-based compressor stations within upland areas, 54 micro-porous ceramic diffusers that are placed on the bottom of Bear Lake, and 102,000 linear feet of self-sinking airline within Bear Lake. The project is located in Town 10 North, Range 17 West, Section 14, Laketon Township and North Muskegon, Muskegon County, Michigan, in accordance with the plans that were attached to the public notice. In order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the inland lake. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 301.06 of Part 301. The department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. The department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the Bear Lake Aeration project an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is by law not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in MLive and the EGLE calendar. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant's agent has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Secondly, we will then call in those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. We will call on you in the order in which you registered for the hearing. Please remember that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. If you have questions and there's time at the end, depending on which is more appropriate, we will either allow the applicant to respond or EGLE staff will respond. After, we will call on those that raise their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via MyWaters, email, or US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. If you have written comments or materials you would like to present, please email them to me, upload them into MyWaters, or send them via US mail in the Grand Rapids District Office. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be giving 3 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we all are courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that Eagle staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. The hearing is being recorded, and your comments will be a part of the information Eagle will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending July 2nd, 2021. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in Eagle's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, Eagle will make a decision to either issue a permit for the proposed project as proposed, or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the Eagle My Waters website and searching for the application number. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, as Nancy just mentioned, I have a list of people during registration who indicated they wanted to make a statement. And it's a list of, I have 16 names on here. What I'll do is I'll read off the person who is going to go first, and then I'll also read off the person who is next, just to give you a heads up that you'll be next. You'll have 3 minutes. Once we call your name and unmute you, you can unmute yourself in Zoom. And then you can go ahead and give your statement. I'll give you a 1 minute warning, or 1 minute heads up rather, that you have a minute left until your 3 minutes is up. And then also, just as a reminder, please mention who you are, and then if you have an affiliation, if you'd like. So you're welcome to mention those items. And then once we get through this list, we will open it up to anybody else on the line who would like to make a comment. If you're on the phone, you can select #2 to raise your hand, and then you can raise your hand in the Zoom app if you're attending this webinar by computer. And then we'll just call them off. The people who have their hands raised one at a time. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first person on the pre-registration list, and that is Lori Archer. And then up next after Lori is Paul Peck. So Lori, it looks like you are unmuted. You can go ahead and give your comment.
Sure. I have a couple problems with the information that for the project. The first is the cost. They only have provided the people for 5 years, and clearly this project has no intentions since we are in our 4th year currently. So we have not had a clear picture to the extent of how much this will cost each of the homeowners. It's a large question and extremely high cost. Also, many people have expressed concerns to this board, and the board does not seem to care or listen to comments or concerns. They have this agenda and they don't seem to listen or allow any other views to be given, and that's extremely troubling. Obviously we know that Bear Lake has oil in it. It is a concern for all of us, areas that will not be able to be treated due to that. So just a lot of disappointments with this board and how it has been handled. And I feel that the residents have been misled. And I am the treasurer for Laketon Township, and unfortunately did approve this board to come in existence, and am very regretful for that decision I made. It was under what I believed was the purpose of this group, to provide a fair shared cost that would be not at a large expense to take care of Bear Lake, and that's not where this group has headed, and it's very disappointing. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, so the next person is Paul Peck, and on deck is Jeff Connors. So Paul, we're going to go ahead and unmute you.
All right. This is Paul Peck. I'm a resident on Bear Lake, and I have lots of comments, but I'm going to kind of pare them down because of the 3-minute thing, and I'll send in the ones I don't get to. But one of the main pushes for this project from these board meetings early on was to address blue-green algae. As was mentioned in the question section, we have not seen blue-green algae in the last couple of years, so I don't see the urgency of getting this system in place. Tied to that, I don't think we've given enough time to the impacts of other projects on Bear Lake, like the cleanup of the celery fields and the capping of Fenner's Ditch. I think some of the water quality improvements we've been seeing, besides, we still have some milfoil and the good algae, have been the results of especially that celery field cleanup on there. And why don't we give it a little more time to see if things will get better? I also have concerns about the petroleum. Even Dr. Jones has mentioned core samples. There is petroleum, and we also know there's brine. Anyone that has any wells, and stirring that up, I have concerns not only for Bear Lake, but then flowing into Muskegon Lake. I don't, from some of the research I've done, I don't see why. It seems like aeration is more a temporary fix while it's in use. You will see some improvement, but you really need to address the root causes of the issues. I don't think we're addressing the root cause of our issues. One of the big things I'm wondering, we have two local experts, Kathy Evans and Dr. Alan Steinman from the Grand Valley Annis Water Research Institute. They've been having great success cleaning up Muskegon Lake. And even more impressively, they're doing it primarily with grants and donations. So the Muskegon lakefront owners aren't footing the bill for that work. And why aren't we getting their input on this? And I know that they even attended a board meeting, and I even brought it up at a board meeting, and it seems like you're just pushed aside by this board, that they don't want to listen to it on there.
In about 1 minute.
Okay. I guess the last couple of things, fiscal responsibility. This board is not being fiscally responsible. This is enormous expense. It was sidestepped in the presentation by the Everblue guy, and this is going to cost over $100,000 a year, and our assessments will continue from this. And then the last thing is, I feel I have riparian rights to the lake bottom, and I do not give permission for the system to go on my section of the lake bottom. And then the final thing is, this is a public lake. Why isn't the public funding it instead of just us property owners? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, the next person on the list is Jeff Connors, followed by Kim Arter. So Jeff, it looks like you are unmuted. You can go ahead and make your comment.
Yes, I actually work for Everblue Lake, so I wanted to get that out there. Basically, my comment is more from a personal experience with the way the system works. I was president on our lake for 8 years, and we went with aeration. Many of the identical problems that the lake is having, Bear Lake is having, we had, and things have vastly improved. So basically, I see that, I'm very convinced that this system will vastly improve the issues that are in-lake issues that you're having. And I think you do have a lot of the benefits of the upland lake issues, and that are going to also benefit the lake. But this should get us a good jump start on everything. So that was just the basic comments. Was I think that the lake will respond as well as ours has.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, so the next person up is Kim Arter, followed by Stephanie Cutler. So Kim, yep, looks like you're unmuted, Kim. You can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Kim Arter, Bear Lake Lake Board, and a resident of Bear Lake. A little information on the Bear Lake Board. We were formed by two communities, Laketon Township and North Muskegon, that were looking to provide a local body that could manage Bear Lake. We ended up with nobody managing the lake. Our board members are from both communities, and they've worked hard these past 3.5 years to look at these projects and do their due diligence. We were formed under Act 451 of Inland Lakes and Streams. We had to hire a professional to work us through the management of the lake. We obviously know that Bear Lake was in the AOC, which is the area of concern, which is going to be soon we will be out of the AOC. We know that Eagle capped the oil well in Fenner's Ditch, which was a tremendous program that we are very thankful that they did. The mitigation and remediation of the Salary Flats in Bear Lake was a tremendous project also. So aeration is another tool in our toolbox, which will complement these projects also. And moving forward, we have had over 20 informational meetings for the residents on Bear Lake. The board wants a holistic approach to the lake. Management and this project will take us to that next level. I've heard from many residents wanting us to move forward with this project. I've also talked with the city manager of North Muskegon, and he has received very little opposition, and he wants to know when this project's going to get going. So
one minute, Kim.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time and thank you for letting me speak.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, next up on the list is Stephanie Cutler, followed by Daryl and Suzanne Van Fossen. So Stephanie, see if we can find you on our list.
Ryan, I was prompted with that message to make her a panelist.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and make her a panelist so that she is able to make her comment. All right.
All right, are we there?
We're there. We can hear you. Go ahead and make a comment.
Thank you so much.
When you're ready.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Cutler. I live on Fenner's Ditch, which has been mentioned a couple of times. It's just off of Bear Lake, a pretty yucky area right now. They had capped an oil well, and it is pretty much just disgusting right now. But I'm concerned with the maps that I've seen that it doesn't look like there's really anything in this area as far as bubblers, and that it's not going to make any difference in the waterfront access that I have, which has me clumped in this lakefront group. So I'm also curious about the costs and what it's going to cost me and why it's just not funded by the public and everyone. Even someone on the ditch of it is getting clumped in. It just seems that maybe everyone in the community can have a part in improving the water. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, so next up we have Daryl and Suzanne Van Fossen, followed by Charles Keever. It looks like Daryl and Suzanne, you're unmuted. If there are two of you there, you can each give, I guess, a comment one after the other. It would probably be the best way.
Okay, now Daryl Van Fossen, I'm a resident of Bear Lake. I've had a residence here since 1998, and I can attest in my short term here, there's a lot of people who lived here 50 years plus or 40 years plus, that this lake has been making some improvements in more so in the last 4 or 5 years since the lake board's been in existence. I was part of a lake association, and all we attempted to do was get more and more people to sign up to treat the lake, and that we could at best case, we could only get about 60%. So that being said, we are very, very pro this effort, and we think it should proceed post haste. It's as I think Kim Marder said, it's another tool in the toolbox that needs to get started, and we really appreciate everything everyone's doing here before us and after us here. Okay, Suzanne, well, that's all we have to say. So you can defer the 3 minutes to 2.5 minutes to someone else.
You're muted, Ryan.
Thank you. That happens. Yeah, so it looks like Charles Keever is next, and then Jennifer Jamalowitz Jones. So Charles, looks like you're unmuted on our end and your end, so you can go ahead and start with your comment whenever you're ready. There, Charles? Charles? All right, and what we will do is we will move on from Charles, and then he'll have an opportunity to raise his hand later on if he's on the line and would like to make a comment. So we will move on to Jennifer Jamalowitz Jones, followed by Eric Gilo. So Jennifer, it looks like you're unmuted on our end.
Yes.
You can go ahead, and start your comment whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much for allowing me to have some comment. I am the scientist that was involved in the original feasibility study for Bear Lake. And in our analysis, we quickly learned that there were obviously some significant issues with the lake regarding the blue-green algae, which, by the way, is still actually very prevalent in the samples. We just found that recently in our samples. So it's just a matter of time before we have another widespread bloom. The blue-green algae historically had been treated with a lot of copper. And as we know from the growing literature, scientific literature, that the repeated copper treatments can actually exacerbate blue-green algae growth. So that is not something that's sustainable in the long term. We have been very successful at reducing the invasive species in Bear Lake, especially the emergent Phragmites and the submerged Eurasian milfoil. But that's just one problem the lake is having. The only way we're going to solve all the lake's issues are with 3 major components. 1, the watershed management that's currently being implemented. 2, in-basin methods such as LFA and bioaugmentation. And 3, the residents around Bear Lake have to do their part. They have to stop fertilizing their lawns with any fertilizer. They have to stop burning leaves near the shoreline, and they have to take accountability for the lake resource. Once all of those elements are put into place, the lake will continue to improve dramatically each year. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
So next we have on the list is Eric Gilo, followed by Jim Panici. So Eric, we will unmute you, and then you'll just have to unmute yourself. It looks like you're unmuted. You can go ahead and give your comment whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Eric Gilo. I am with GGTM Law. Our law firm represents several riparian owners who own land adjacent to Bear Lake. we've been asked to make public comment, specifically with respect to the permit application that is pending. My clients have several concerns about that permit application, and I will summarize them for you here. One item was already alluded to earlier by one of our speakers, and that is with respect to the consent of the riparians. To my knowledge, even though the Lake Board has jurisdiction to address issues with respect to Bear Lake, it is not a riparian owner. It is an applicant for this permit, but it does not have the consent of the riparian owners to the installation of diffusers and 100,000 feet or more of hoses and lines across the bottomland of Bear Lake. Pursuant to Michigan law, Bear Lake is owned by the surrounding lakefront owners, with each owner owning a discrete portion of the same according to well-established riparian rights rules for determining bottomland ownership. Based upon the figures that were presented earlier in this presentation, you can see the compressor locations and the diffuser locations basically set forth the spider web of equipment across the entire bottom of Bear Lake. The riparians who have ownership rights in the bottomland have not been approached to grant their specific consent to the placement of equipment on their property, and for that reason, doing so without their consent would be a trespass under Michigan law. And one of the specific elements,
one minute, Eric.
one of the specific elements of the permit is that they be allowed to consent to this. Otherwise, the project is unlawful. I just wanted to mention one specific thing that came up earlier that I think is worthy of discussion, and that is if RLS has not had this particular, has not worked in a lake with oil pollutants at the bottom in the past, one of the things that I think would be very useful is to see a pilot study in a more limited area of this lake rather than a full lake-wide implementation of the aeration system. Otherwise, if we have exacerbation of the oil that's at the bottom, it will have a situation where all these riparians are exposed to potential liability or loss of use of the lake or damaging the surface water quality, yada, 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 without the ability to control.
You're at 3 minutes, Eric, so please wrap up your comment.
I suppose without any further time, I will submit the rest of my comments in writing.
Thank you. All right.
Jim Panici is not in attendance.
Okay. Looks like he has his hand raised at the top. I think he was. Are you still not seeing him? Oh, there he is. I see him here.
Yeah, I see him now. He's bouncing around.
Yeah, I think he went to the top of the list because his hand was raised. Are you able to unmute him?
Yep.
Okay. All right, Jim, it looks like you are.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello? Yes. We
Hi.
can hear you.
This is Cindy Panici, Jim Panici's wife. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You can go ahead and start your comment.
Okay. Hey, I just wanted to say, while I appreciate Dr. Jones's comment on how the people around Bear Lake should not fertilize, I get that. That's all fine. All the accountability is fine. What about all the people who enter Bear Lake? This is not a private lake. They enter Bear Lake from who knows where. We have one of the only free launch ramps in the county, I think. So what about their responsibility and their accountability for our lake? I mean, we are not a lake that's private, that doesn't have other contaminations entering it through various sources, including boats, who come here and use our lake. And yet, as I've heard from many other people, we are responsible for paying the cost. Yet it is a county resource. And I guess if we were private and we could control who entered and we would, you know, it would just be us, that's fine. But we can't do that. And so let's talk about accountability and responsibility and enjoyment that people throughout this county get in Bear Lake. I'm done.
Thank you for your comment.
Oh, they didn't lose me.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, they muted.
Is there anyone else on the line who'd like to make a comment, or just wanted to check?
Where's Dr. Keever? Is Dr. Keever there?
All right, we are going to move on to the next person on our list. And that is, I have John Tucci. John, did you want to make a comment, or are you just on here for your presentation? Looks like you're
I'm
unmuted,
set.
John.
No, just on there for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, just wanted to check. All right, so then the next person on the list is Eric Keene. And then after that, it will be Rod Morphew. So Eric Keene, we'll find you. Okay, looks like you are unmuted, and you can go ahead and start your comment when you're ready.
So my name is Eric Keene, and I'm a homeowner on Bear Lake. And I'm also a licensed professional engineer, however, not in environmental sciences. However, I would state that I have multiple concerns, one of which you saw tonight when Mr. Tucci gave his presentation of there are no metrics, clear metrics in water quality health that specifically state the need for aeration. Further, there are no metrics. You hear, well, an improvement in phosphorus, you an improve. Without the definition of defined metrics, both for causation that allow us or that motivate us to add these, and then also success of when we can remove them, we're setting ourselves up for a perpetual, well, it's getting better or it's not. But there's no clear definition provided by any of the scientists, either in writing in any of the prior 20 meetings as they reference, or even tonight, as to when we will know whether this is effective or not, and upon which we can cease to do it. Thus, we're set up for $100,000 in perpetuity. So I would like us to use science to define criterion upon which we will measure the success or failure of the system and have those well documented within the public record. To date, the Bear Lake Board and the scientists have not provided those. Secondly, the cost of this was done under a plan submitted in 2017, of which we've all been assessed as homeowners. The costs have now grown significantly. They've grown significantly such that we aren't treating the lake to make the lake as usable. And I think all residents would agree that the algal bloom this year and the significant vegetative growth have made the lake as bad as it's been in at least the last 15 years of which I've owned property here. So part of the use of a lake is to take care of the health of the lake, but it's also to be provided as a recreation and enjoyment for the residents and the larger public. And I can state that this weekend alone, multiple fishermen gave up fishing in this lake because the props on their boats couldn't, churn their way through the significant growth. So we are trying to take the middle step, as Mr. Tucci claimed, but we're not addressing it the lower cost, significantly effective step that makes it an usable, enjoyable lake for all. And then lastly, I would also like to comment that there are numerous people here that have conflicts of interest in regards to this. Dr. Jennifer receives more compensation when we air.
You're over 2 minutes, so yeah.
Mr. Tucci is clearly receiving more compensation the longer this goes. And in fact, in the June 10th Lake Board meeting stated that removal of this system after 2 years, his firms risked the loss of significant dollars. So again, we're setting ourselves up for the experts to continue to require us to use this. Further, I'm curious for what the legal obligations that the Bear Lake Board has to Everblue and RLS be implied, because the compressors have already been purchased. The 54 diffusers have already been built, as stated in the June 10th Lake Board meeting. And so if this permit is denied, where are we at financially? And also, where are we at as all of this has been done without.
You're at 3 minutes, Eric, so please wrap up your comments.
So I guess ultimately, I share the concern that we have conflicts of interest and we have no scientific measures proposed to determine the safety or effectiveness of the system.
Thank you for your comment. All right, so next up is Rod Morphew, and after Rod is Nathan Ziwambaza. So Rod, we are going to look for you here.
I'm not seeing either of those two in the list.
Okay, Nathan is at the top as it has his hand up. So I think he's bouncing around a little bit too. Oh, it looks like, okay, it looks like you are unmuted on our end, Nathan. You
All
can
right,
go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you very much, folks. My name is Nathan Ziwambaza. I'm one of the residents on Bear Lake here. And I really much share the concerns of the two last speakers here. The lady that is concerned about the expense financial liability for the residents who have to bear this when this lake actually is accessed by the rest of the public and they use it as they please, come and go, sometimes to the inconvenience of the residents. However, they have that privilege. So with this being used as a public lake, why hasn't there been any discussion about the state grants, DNR involvement in regards to funding this, or the state funds to contribute to the repairs that are being suggested here? The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that there has not been adequate and sufficient discussions with the board in regards to our voting and thoughts moving forward with this project. You know, I've had testimonials from the owners of this project, but nothing has been really put forward to us to have the opportunity to look into that further. I'll yield. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Rachel Leos, followed by Julia Keene. So Rachel, it looks like you are unmuted on our end, but you still need to unmute yourself, which should be at the toolbar at the bottom.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you, Rachel. Feel free to start your comment when you're ready.
Thanks. So I'm a lakefront owner, and I have more than 3 minutes worth of comments, so I will put my comments in writing. But I have three main concerns. One is the aeration project itself hasn't been determined to be the best or even correct solution, hasn't proved that it won't cause harm to the lake and won't impact residents. I have concern with the lakefront owners being required to 100% fund the project with no say at all. And I also am concerned with the lake board not representing the best interests of the lakefront owners. So from an aeration project standpoint, it's been mentioned earlier that we're implementing, to me, a solution without a defined problem. So we talked about solving a toxic blue-green algae, but we've seen it not present, or at least much better in the last couple of years. We don't have evidence that the diffusers won't cause harm, won't stir up the petroleum, won't increase the temperature and impact the fisheries. There's no guarantee that it will improve quality. And the comments earlier about metrics for what is okay and what isn't okay, what does success look like. I'm concerned with both the visual impact of the diffusers on the lake. The comment was that I'll only see it on a still lake. That's when I enjoy watching the sunset reflecting off the lake. So I think there's a visual impact. I'm concerned of the noise from the compressors, but also the whole system is on our property, and I have not been asked my opinion. I've been to some lake board meetings, but I honestly stopped going because I didn't feel like lakefront owners were listened to. I'm not effectively communicated with. I've had no notification of any kind. I'm not asked.
1 minute left, Rachel.
Sure. We're not looking, as far as I know, on preventive measures. And my concern with being told to pay for it when we're not a private lake and it's used by multiple users. Other financing options and grants haven't been seriously considered. I have the same concerns around conflicts of interest, which are huge and a perpetuating project that nobody can tell me how long this will continue for, how much it will cost me, and yet I get no say based on the board and what happens going forward. I'll submit the rest of my comments in writing.
Okay, thank you for your comment. All right, so next up is we have one more person who's on our list before we move to the raised hands, and it's Julia Keene. All right, Julia, it looks like you are unmuted on our end. You can go ahead and make your comment.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity. I am Julia Keene. I am a PhD and I am a professional engineer. And I would like to focus my time on the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act 451, Section 324.3090, Engineering and Economic Reports and Cost Estimates. This particular section requires that the Lake Board have a licensed professional engineer prepare an engineering feasibility report, an estimate of cost, and an economic study report. Licensed professional engineers have an ethical duty enforced by law to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public, and also to exhibit a minimum qualification of education, examination of competence, and experience to ensure their capability to ensure the public's welfare. Undoubtedly, the qualifications of a professional engineer by law is why the Michigan legislature requires by statute the inclusion of a PE in the preparation of Lake Board's recommendations for actions. An unbiased professional engineer, as required by Michigan statute, should be hired to do the legally required studies and have results presented to the Bear Lake Board and the effective citizenry before approval of an aeration permit is granted. Further, we would suggest that the Bear Lake Board directly hire the professional engineer rather than hire it through RLS to ensure credible results without any potential of bias being induced by the conflict of interest through a contract process. There is nothing that requires aeration to be implemented immediately, since the Bear Lake water quality is already improving due to ongoing efforts. Thus, waiting for an engineering study to be completed and reviewed with the Bear Lake Board and the associated public to be ensured that it is an appropriate action before approving an aeration permit is most prudent. It is the responsibility.
1 minute left, Julia.
Thank you. It is the responsibility of the state of Michigan, EGLE, to uphold the law and to protect the life, safety, and welfare of the public that uses this lake, as well as to make decisions that best preserve the environment of the Bear Lake watershed itself. We appreciate the time and the opportunity for comment this evening.
Thank you. So the next, so we're going to move on. That was Julia was the last person on our list of pre-registered attendees. So now, if you would like to make your comment, please raise your hand in Zoom. And just to recap, you can do that again at the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're on the phone, you can select #2 to raise your hand in Zoom And we're going to go in order of hands raised. So the first one up is Justin Wilson. So we'll go ahead and unmute you, Justin. So you can go ahead and make your comment when you're ready. Okay. Are you on the line, Justin? The toolbar is at the bottom of your screen where you can unmute yourself. Oh, there you are. We can hear you. You can go ahead and make your comment when you're ready.
Yes, I'm a Bear Lake resident. I was the co-treasurer for the Homeowners Association. It was a viable entity for 25 years. We petitioned both North Muskegon and Laketon Township to create the board to decrease the cost, not increase the cost. We were very effective in treating the lake. We treated a lot of the milfold in our last year. Since the time of the board has been created, they have not been treating the lake. Okay, they've stated, a couple board members, that they have, but it's not been treated. The first 2 years of its creation, we've sent them pictures of the blue-green algae that was there. It wasn't being treated. The last 2 years, because of the salary field, because of work by Southwest Michigan Regional District and Anna's Research Institute working in tandem, the salary field cleanup has decreased the phosphorus load, subsequently decreasing the amount of blue-green algae to a point where it's non-existent. I'd also like to say that this board is very anti-approved DEQ chemical treatments that are effective, and the DEQ have approved these because of the safety that is in using these type of treatments, okay? I also want to state that underneath my property and other properties along the lake, this, I can only talk about mine as a fact, I have contaminated aquifer. I tried to tap in that for a shallow well to do irrigation and experience brine water just several feet down. I'm very concerned that this system will puncture a hole in this aquifer and cause insurmountable damage to the entire ecosystem. Okay, and that also, that the board also states that they've had 20 sessions, but when we go to those sessions, they either do not hear us, they don't incorporate our views in terms of not wanting this system. Also, I sent a letter via an attorney 2 years ago stating that we have riparian rights. I have riparian rights, as do residents, and you have to get our permission to do this. They ignored that, and at this point, I'll give further comments in written.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment, Justin.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like we have Daryl and Suzanne Van Fossen. I know Daryl already spoke. Maybe we can, Matt, can we unmute them to see if Suzanne would like to speak and provide a comment?
No.
Is that the case? We have someone else on the line who would like to make a comment?
Oh, Suzanne is here, Daryl's here. I just wanted to add some facts to some of the comments.
Well, we are this is a public hearing, so one person is providing a 3-minute statement for each person, and we're not doing follow-ups for this comment. If you have additional comments, then those can go either by email, mail, or through the MyWaters process.
Okay, well, I just want to remind you, I did not use my 3 minutes up the first time, so that's okay. I'll just submit it in writing. Thanks. I just wanted to let the residents know some things, but that's all right.
That sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, the next person on the list is Casey Fowler.
Hello.
Okay, yep, you can go ahead and make your statement.
Okay, thank you for holding this public hearing and giving us all a chance to comment. Again, my name is Casey Fowler. My wife and I live at 580 Glenwood Avenue on Fenner's Ditch. We've lived here for the past 16 years. We oppose this aeration project for several reasons, but our top two are, number one, the cost. We still don't have a clear answer as to how much it will cost overall per year, per family. It's also very unclear on how long we will have to pay for it. This lake is a very public lake, and the cost burden of this project really should be shared by all who use it. I've never bought anything without knowing the terms, yet the Bear Lake Board is spending my money without providing any specific terms. The second thing is that I have 150 feet of frontage on Fenner's Ditch, and the aerators will not extend that far, yet I'm expected to foot the bill. Fenner's Ditch really is historically one of the worst parts of the lake from the standpoint of weeds, muck, and algae, but this project ignores it. So we do oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right. Next person up is Jennifer Jamalowitz Jones. I know Jennifer already provided a comment. We can see if she has somebody else on the line before we move on. Jennifer, do you have somebody else there who would like to make a comment?
I do not.
Okay, then if you have additional comments, we will, and just for everybody's information, we're going to be showing the email address and the mailing address and the MyWaters again, so you can make additional comments. Will that work, Jennifer?
Yes, it will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next person is, I don't think, Rhonda Peck. All right, Rhonda, we're going to unmute you so you can give your comment.
Okay, I think, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'm Rhonda Peck. I'm a lakefront owner as well. I want to thank you for hearing all of our comments. And I just want to reiterate that I'm agreeing with most of the people that have spoken tonight that are against this. I'm looking at the riparian rights, the conflict of interest, the cost that should be shared. But on another note, another thing that really concerns me is how the Bear Lake Board has not acted in our best interest. When I go to look at, what's out posted based on the meetings, the minutes are not out there in a timely manner at all. Sometimes the meetings are moved. We don't even know when they're moved. They just change them, they're canceled. So, we've tried to follow this really closely and it's been very difficult to do so. We now keep our own minutes so that we know what's going on, because otherwise we can't look back and find them. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention too. I feel like they're not acting in our best interest. I'm concerned with a lot of the things going on. I'm concerned with the way the lake is going to look. And I hope that you're hearing all of these concerns. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for your comment. That is the last person I have with a raised hand at this point. We're going to give it another minute or two in case there is anyone who hasn't given a comment yet, who would like to make their comment with the 3 minutes allotted. And again, I'll just mention that if you didn't want to make a comment tonight, in a minute here, we'll give the other ways to make a comment. Or if you wanted to elaborate, it seemed like there was definitely some people who would like to elaborate further on their comments or provide more information. You're welcome to do that through those other methods. So I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Matt, are you seeing anyone at this point?
I'm not. I did see Charles Keever did raise his hand earlier, so maybe we can try him again to see if he's able to unmute.
Okay, let's do that then.
Yes,
All right.
can you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Good. Finally got things working. Okay. I've been agreeing with a lot that's been said here lately about our riparian rights. And the biggest thing from my point of view is I don't know how much this is going to cost. I don't know how long it's going to last. And since this is a navigable waterway, it's public property, public domain. So therefore, everything that's spent should be out of public money, not private. Now, should that not be the case and they determine that we are on the line for everybody that lives on the lake, then we should have a vote on whether we want this or not, because we are the ones that are paying for it. That's it. I'm done.
All right, thank you for your comment, Charles. All right, would anybody else like to make a comment who's on the line? And again, you can, if you're on the phone, you can select #2 and that will raise your hand in the Zoom platform. And I'm still not seeing any other hands. So Nancy, if you would like to go ahead and give the closing statement for the public hearing portion of tonight.
Thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time out to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until July 2nd. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via MyWaters, email, or US mail. Thank you again.
All right, thank you, Nancy. We actually had a last minute hand raised. So I would like to, I guess, try to give them an opportunity to provide their comment. So Gary Hall, did you want to provide a comment before we wrap?
Sure, I'll very quickly. We're Bear Lake owners, and because of the reasons given and other reasons, we are declaring our riparian rights also and denying access. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Gary. All right. So with that, I just want to review, the last one last time, the other ways to make a comment through the MyWater system, submission HP4-A8SR. By email at CUNCANNANN@michigan.gov, or by mail to Nancy Concanon, State Office Building, 5th floor, 350 Ottawa Avenue Northwest, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49503-2341. And again, as Nancy mentioned, the comment period for the hearing will be open for 10 days, which is July 2nd. And if you have additional questions, you can contact Nancy. Her information is here. It looks like Matt is also putting the contact information in the chat for additional comments to be sent. And Nancy's phone number is 616-690-1229. And so with that, I'd like to invite Audrey to give any last minute thoughts or comments closing tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I just wanted to say again, thank you all for tuning in. I know the virtual setting isn't ideal for everyone, but I looked and it looked like we had 64 participants, which is a good number for a virtual hearing. So I really do appreciate everyone taking the time out of your busy lives to be here and to share your comments with us. It helps us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Yeah, and thank you, to the panelists for providing the Q&A tonight and for the great questions. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your evening. Have a good night, everyone.